Do you
want me to start? Because this one's obviously I'm not normally here on a Monday, but we thought it was important to come out and just give you the details around what went down on the weekend around the medical sub. We acknowledge off the bat that it wasn't the best look. For supporters and people watching on the TV to have a player, it looked like rushing around the change rooms, getting organised. We can see how that came across. The intention that we went into the game with and the plan was executed exactly as we'd planned it. So, we gave Tom the instruction to take his time. There was no rush for him to be implemented into the game. What we've looked at across the league, be it on limited data, is that that medical sub doesn't necessarily need to come in within the first 10 or 15 minutes. For a number of reasons. One, we're not swapping a player for a player. Will Hamill came off on the weekend, who's a back. Tom Lynch is going to come on and possibly play multiple roles, which is a benefit of having him in that position. So to execute a plan, we were happy for Tom to come on, be it 10 or 15 minutes after we decided we needed that sub to come on. That played out as planned. Tom came on first rotation in the last quarter, played the quarter out. Had an impact on the game. Unfortunately, as a team, we didn't get a lot of things right in that last quarter. So by no means did the medical sub influence the result. We were really pleased with the way Tom went about it. In that, Tom's an ultimate professional. He's a leader of our football club. There was a reason that we took him down as our 23rd, because he is an outstanding leader, and we knew that he could handle that job of coming in as a medical sub into multiple roles. Obviously, it's snowballed into quite a big deal, which is understandable, as I said at the start, and we acknowledge that fact. We're going to look at our processes going forward. Did we get it right? That there is a little bit of time available to us in that situation. We'll have a look at that. The data we've looked at says that is the case, that a lot of teams don't necessarily get that medical sub on for a good 10 to 15 minutes after it's activated. So we'll continue to look into that as a footy department and a high performance group. But as I said, probably the most important part about getting up today is to stick up for one of our players who's copping quite a bit of criticism on social media and so on. And as I said, Tom's there's no more professional in our footy club and in our squad than Tom Lynch, and he executed a plan that we went with to perfection on the weekend. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result in the end.
I guess the only problem with that plan is that what if a player gets knocked out in the first minute of the game and you're not prepared to have someone else come and swap straight on for him?
Yeah, again, we're happy for 15 minutes for our player as a medical sub to go and prepare. I mean, at that point in the game, we can rotate 3 players through. There's no issue in our rotations. What we have to remember with this is we have a cap of 75 rotations, so we're not spinning them. Players aren't coming on and off necessarily. To give you an example, if an incident happened with 25 minutes to go in the game, that would be an interesting one, whether someone would actually activate the sub. Can you see the game out for the last 20 minutes of a game with 3 rotations? We're not spinning those rotations in the last quarter. We're actually getting to a point where we're monitoring who comes on and off the ground. So a lot of research has gone in, as I said, on small data at this point, because it is new. So did we get it right? We'll continue to review it, and we probably won't know for a few weeks, maybe a month or so, on how this actually plays out. But the plan was, and at this point, without looking into it in too much more detail, will we go the same way this week and have our medical sub not rush, compose themselves, get ready, make sure that they're ready to go? Yeah, we'd go the same way, and we give that player 15 odd minutes.
Was Tom fit enough to play out a full game if required? He didn't train during the week with his toe injury, you said on Friday.
Yeah. So Tom was fit enough to play a game out. Tom, for the last month, he's required treatment around preparing for a game. So he's needed painkillers to play. We were really confident Tom could play the game out. No hiding from the fact that we felt a leader was a great player to take down as the 23rd for this particular game with such a young group. If we were able to get through the game and Tom not play the game of football, that would be a bonus, because we wouldn't need him to take those painkillers, and it might have been a chance for him to have a week off. But at no stage were we worried about Tom going into the game.
I think on Friday you said that you'd take Chase Jones down as the 24th man. Did he come down in the end to Launceston? Was he a consideration to be the medical sub?
No, he wasn't, but he did come down to Tassie. He's there at the moment, spending time with family. He played in the SANFL, and so with that, I mean that's a last resort if we happen to lose one in the warm-up. Chase would step in and more than likely play that medical sub, which is a risk we're taking at the moment. And the reason we're doing that is because we need these young players to play footy. We need them to develop at a lower level. And the example, we were really pleased with Chase's game at SANFL level off halfback. Other option as a sub was Billy Frampton this weekend. Well, Billy wouldn't have been able to show his weapon at SANFL level where he kicked 7 goals. So we're constantly balancing that. Who do we play as a medical sub? Who do we take as an emergency? Do we leave 2 out each week because we're playing an away game? We'd prefer to play our guys as much as we possibly can at SANFL level rather than having a player sit out and not play at all.
Matthew, pain is a way of your body telling you shouldn't be doing something. Is it really a smart idea to be playing football after using painkillers?
Yeah, it's a question I think we always look at, as a football club. I think the league look at it. There's a balance with that. And we make decisions around that every week. I talk to you guys about, look, we're not sure on which way we're going to go here. And we make decisions both ways. We have experts in that field that make those decisions as well. It's not left just up to the player, but we also, when you are dealing with an experienced player, you put a little bit of that both in the doctors and the high performance group, and you put that also in the players' hands on whether they believe they can perform.
Is Tom in your best 22?
Yeah, Tom's well and truly in our best 22.
But is there an option of having him as a medical sub again, giving you balance between getting K's under the belt, balancing his injury, etc.?
Yeah, again, it's always a balance. It's us trying to find what's best for the squad. We felt this weekend what was best for the squad was that Tom played as the medical sub for us. Going forward, we'll continue to look at that each week. And there's a challenge in that because you don't want to do the same player in that position. We've had 3 weeks up to this point where we haven't activated. We've then had to look at that and say, does Nick Murray need to play a game of football now, or could we do it again and risk him not playing again? Rarely will we let a player not play 2 weeks in a row. And there's that balance between them, I guess, detraining and at the same time overdoing things. But there's no doubt we'll manage throughout the year. I think a lot of what you're seeing across the league at the moment is a lot of teams have some sore players. There's a fair bit of fatigue at the moment. We've gone to longer seasons, we've gone to less rotations. The game's quite challenging, so I'm sure a lot of clubs at the moment are managing their way through it.
Do you think there should be just 5th person on the bench, no medical sub, you can use them as an interchange? I know a couple of your senior coaching counterparts have said there should just be an extra person on the bench flat out.
Look, no, I don't. I haven't looked into it. I think the way it's set up now is working. I totally understand and acknowledge why this one has blown up the way it has, because it's something a little bit different. It's something that's come across the TV on camera, and even looking at the game back today and watching it, I understand why people are up in arms. But our plan is to take it that way. I don't think that we need to change the way the AFL have got it. I think they've done well the way they've got it set up. We will look at the way we manage it going forward.
How do you feel about some people calling it unprofessional, the whole situation?
Yeah, as I said, I acknowledge, I can see why people are saying that without the detail. And we're going on limited data. We're looking at this. To give you a little bit more detail, Nick Murray and Dave McKay played the medical role, didn't get on the ground, and at the end of the game were physically and mentally fatigued from warming up, cooling down, warming up, cooling down. Sitting on the bench watching a game of footy is quite a tough gig. It's a much easier game out there than actually watching as a player and not sure when you're going to come on. So we made a call around that. We told our players that we wanted them to sit back and relax, and we would give them time, if and when they were activated, to prepare themselves both physically and mentally for the game. As I said, it played out, our plan played out and was executed exactly the way we wanted it to. I think it was 9 minutes of run time of the game, and Tom Lynch was on. He played the game out exactly as we'd planned when Will Hamill went down. So, go on.
Are you happy with the impact that Tom made when he came on? There was some commentary made that Jason Dunstall said he was fit and covered the ground. Were you happy with his impact?
Yeah, we were really pleased with. I mean, in a team that's not performing well, I guess it's tough to sort of look like you're having a huge impact on the game. But Tom, I don't want to go into details, but Tom is one of the best runners at the footy club, ran 150 metres a minute and got up and down the wing exactly as we'd asked him to do. As I said, it had nothing to do, Tom's performance in the last quarter had nothing to do with the game result. That was 18 players that weren't getting the job done at the time, and credit to Hawthorn who got momentum and ran right over us.
So I think one element was the time, or the seed time it took for Tom to come on with some of the fans and members. The other element is that they feel like you picked an unfit player to be your medical sub. What would you say to that?
Yeah, well, that's not the case. And there's a little bit of talk around about, why would you play an injured player? Tom's not injured. Tom at the moment's, we're looking at managing a lot of our players through. Tom requires painkillers at the moment to play, and he's done that now for coming on 3 weeks. So Tom's fit and ready to go. At no point will we play an injured player in the medical sub.
So more about your depth then at the moment that forced you to pick a player that needs treatment as your medical sub. Does it say more about where your depth is from an AFL standard? No, I don't think it does. I mean, we got players at different levels of development that we want to see in different areas. We mentioned Chase before, and there's a lot of publicity around Chase at the moment. We want him to get a really good body of work under him and prove that he's ready to go at AFL level, and he's trying a new position. So there's different reasons we play guys. Billy Frampton had played a super role for us for 5 rounds and was probably unlucky to miss, but we hadn't quite seen his weapon. Well, he showed it on the weekend. So, we played him exactly where we needed to play him and saw what we were after, and now he put some pressure on, from below. That's depth. That's exactly what we're after.
Do you have an update on Will?
So Will's pulled up well. He's pulled up reasonably well. We'll just have to see now from a management point of view. He's had a few issues around the ankles the last few weeks. It didn't look like a major role, so we'll just have to look into that. I'm not the expert in that field, but speaking to him this morning, he felt pretty good. He'd pulled up quite well.
And Andrew as well. Andrew McPherson had his ribs.
And similar with Moose. Again, assessment going forward, just to keep an eye on exactly how he goes.
Is there a different fitness requirement for a medical sub and a best 22 player? Given you say Tom is in your best 22, is there given that they might not come on at all, is there a different fitness requirement?
No, I don't think so. I think it's you want to find a player who can handle it for starters. I think it's probably underestimated how tough the role is to be on the sidelines just waiting to come in. The speed of the game's a hard one to just come out and catch up with, and you'll notice that it's not necessarily that a medical sub comes in and has a huge impact. It does happen, but not always. But I don't think there's any difference in fitness required. Right.
Nick, you've seen how it's been perceived by the public and footy fans. Do you think it was a mistake to have Tom there, maybe a little bit underdone?
No, because Tom's not a little bit underdone. If we talk about match fit, Tom's match fit and ready to play. As I said earlier, we'll acknowledge that the aesthetics of it, of Tom warming up in the change rooms and maybe searching for his socks in his bag and so on. Totally understand why it has been labelled as it has. And in saying that though, that was our instruction to Tom, was no rush. You prepare yourself as best as you possibly can to be right to go when we need you, which was 5 minutes into the last quarter, first rotation. You'll run the quarter out, so you'll see the game out. And he did exactly that, ran the game out as good as any.
How does Tom feel about some of that criticism that he's got?
Well, that's part of the reason I'm here, to be honest. It's tough for any player, let alone an experienced player, to take the criticism that he's received over the last 24 hours. It's unwarranted. Because he's carrying out his role. He's the ultimate professional. For those who know Tom, he's all about team. He was ready to go. It was my instruction to Tom, no rush. In fact, we jumped on the phone with 3 minutes to go in the third and said, no rush, we'll get you on first rotation. You be ready to go. So he carried out our plan. Now we'll look at our plan from here. But yeah, I'd like to think that maybe some people with a bit better understanding of where it's at may go a bit easier on Tom.